For about 2 decades, mostly in the 1950s and the 1960s, the most prominent Hollywood actress born in Utah was Marie Windsor. With her first studio contract in 1947, she became a mainstay on the silver screen, often playing the seductive villain in numerous Western films and later television episodes. With the exceptions of perhaps, let's see if I can do that. Oh, there we go. There's Marie. There we go. With perhaps the exception of perhaps Lorraine Day, who's on your left, and Loretta Young, who's on your right, there is no other female actor from Utah in the classic area of Hollywood more impactful than Marie Windsor. Yet this rather unassuming young woman embarked on her acting career while living in the state, and she attributed much of her formative years for her later acting success. It is upon these early years that I will focus today. Born in December of 1919, Emily Marie Bertelson was the oldest child of Lane and Etta, residents of Marysvale, Utah. Here's a little map. At the time of her birth, this small central Utah town to the east of Beaver was the largest in Piute County, and with just over 600 residents, this provides a sense of how really rural an atmosphere in which she grew up. For young Marie, surrounded by an extended family, this was a pleasant time to grow up in central Utah, and the Bertelson clan had lived in the area for decades. At the age of 7, she would welcome a younger brother, and shortly after graduating from high school, a younger sister. Her namesake, a paternal grandmother, died the year before her birth and is buried on the hillside cemetery above the town. And she grew close to her paternal grandfather, Joseph, who passed away after seeing her succeed in Hollywood. The flair for the dramatic came early and close to home. Lane Bertelson, her father, was something of a jack of all trades. Some reports indicate that he was a gold miner, sometime farmer, and a contract laborer. Not long after Marie's birth, he took to flying airplanes and secured a number of contracts to fly mail across the state, primarily to places not already serviced by the railroad. It was on one of these trips he claimed a world record due to a mechanical failure of his flying machine. Well, with his airplane engine on fire, he bailed out without a parachute over what was termed Taylor's Lake, which I have yet to discover where it really is, and thankfully survived by diving into the water. It was after this that he claimed to hold the world's record for the high dive. Reflecting on these early years, Marie would say that she loved the outdoors, particularly horseback riding, a skill which would later serve her well on the set of so many of those Western films and television episodes. At about the age of 8, she was given her first horse, which she titled Silver Queen. And while they were too poor to afford a saddle, she learned to ride bareback. Again, a skill which would serve her later in adulthood. She also enjoyed other athletic pursuits like skiing and golf and basketball. In high school, she would be the captain of her girls' basketball team. Her formative years were also filled with local activities, as reflected in a Central Utah newspaper story, which included this little tidbit. In September 1934, she attended a party at the local high school in which the attendees played a popular game called Progressive 500, which I understand passed from popularity in the 1930s. Among the 60 or so guests, she and one other participant were the ones awarded prizes because of their prowess at the game. At another event, which was celebrated that fall as well, she performed a dance, while other attendees sang and quoted poetry. The following spring, she attended a musical review in Monroe, Utah, at the Pavilion for the Latter-day Saints South Sevier Stake. The local newspaper reporting of the event made special mention of her dance amongst all the other performances. In her many activities, it was her maternal grandmother, Anna, who greatly encouraged her skill. And Marie later indicated that this turned her mind to a career under the lights of the stage or the silver screen. At about the age of 8, she began to dream of being a movie star after Anna took her to a film to see at a local theater. This continued in the late 1920s with silent films and continued into the 1930s with these new talkies that she enjoyed. In one irony of idolization, she remembered clearly the impact of silent film star Clara Bow riding a horse on the screen and how much she wanted to be like her. Then, later after she arrived in Hollywood, she got to meet her childhood hero. On May 20th, 1937, she graduated from Marysvale High School, along with 8 other classmates. And that fall, she traveled to Provo, where she enrolled at Brigham Young University. There are many indications that she jumped right into the social scene of the city. The first being that in a Salt Lake Tribune article in December of 1937, mentioned her as one of 2 bridesmaids for a prominent Provo couple. Now, while the officiator of the wedding, who was the Provo stake president, didn't get more than a few words of mention, Marie's dress, however, drew 2 full sentences to describe her dress. So, another way in which she jumped right in was on campus at Brigham Young University. Let's see. Here's a picture of her. That's her yearbook picture for 1938. But also, let's see. While at BYU, she participated in a group called Val Norn, or a women's student social group who often attended and performed at campus events, something similar to a choir. These sororities of sorts were discontinued by Brigham Young University in the 1960s. In the spring of 1938, she is also listed on the cast of the campus production of Stage Door, while it is under, at this point, under the tutelage of Dr. Earl and Catherine Pardo, she found her most meaningful place on campus. I'll give you one other picture here. This is a fun one. She's getting initiated into some sort of group in her freshman year. Then let's do Dr. Earl Pardo. He's on the left. Catherine, his wife, is on the right. The longtime professor of drama and his wife, the campus instructor of speech, greatly impacted young Marie. For 2 years, she gained by their direct mentoring, and they recognized her talents. Many years later, after her Hollywood successes began to pile up, she would correspond with them, reminiscing about their times together, the acting credits, and often expressing gratitude for the skills that they honed with her that she later put to work on the silver screen. As classes ended for the academic year, young Marie wasn't content with simply returning to Marysvale for the summer break. Instead, she entered the contest for Queen of the annual Covered Wagon Days. This antecedent to the Days of 47 parade in Salt Lake City occupied the most prominent place in the state's celebration of Pioneer Day. By April, as you can see here, the judges had narrowed the field of Utah County candidates to 2, Marie and Barbara Tejan. While this was not her year to win the crown, she would soon return to BYU, but was undeterred, as you'll see in just a moment. Back in Provo, in the fall of 1938, to continue her studies, Marie again participated in Val Norn and was an officer in that group, and then focused more exclusively on her acting. Here's her yearbook picture from 1939. In the spring production of Emperor Jones, she was made the female lead and again the center of attention. Here's a photo from that production. Hers is the white dress in the very center. She's the one right there. By all accounts, she loved her time in the city, although perhaps she had already begun to plan for bigger things. She again entered the royalty competition for the Covered Wagon Days, and this year was crowned queen. While the Salt Lake Tribune was much more reserved in its reporting than the local newspaper, which loudly proclaimed the elevation of "Hail Queen Marie," she was noted as the first non-Salt Lake City resident to win the honor of head royalty of the parade. So proud was the local Piute County newspaper, she was symbolically crowned Miss Utah in the 1940s after her departure to Hollywood. The summer of 1939 to the spring of 1940, it appears Marie shuttled between her home in Marysvale, some working engagements in Salt Lake City, a trip to New York in an attempt to engage in acting lessons, initial attempts to move to Los Angeles, and a dramatic radio production in Salt Lake City. Upon finding her intended acting coach had moved from the East Coast to Southern California, she packed her belongings and trekked to Hollywood to pursue her acting career. Lane and Etta left her in the hands of family friends, wished her well, hugged her tight, and returned to their hometown of Marysvale. While these early years in Southern California weren't easy, Marie was determined to succeed. She worked with an acting coach named Maria Ospenskaya and tried stage productions to both make ends meet and to get her foot in the door. It is reported that in the fall of 1940, she appeared in the stage production of 40,000 Smiths at the Ben Bard Theater in Hollywood. This training theater, formed by former actor and talent scout Ben Bard, operated in conjunction with Maria Ospenskaya's acting school. The next year, like many aspiring actresses in Southern California, she began appearing in bit parts and uncredited roles in films, but nothing was quite taking hold. In 1942, she attracted the attention of radio personality and entertainer Jack Benny when she wrote to him letters containing potential jokes and gags for him to use. It was at this time she began signing her letters E.M. Windsor, because it sounded like royalty, as in the British royal family. While he opened the door to additional acting credits, she did appear in no fewer than 20 films in the next 4 years. She wouldn't be assigned to a studio contract until 1947. From there, the rest is another story. She starred in nearly 150 films and television shows. Here's one of her more early prominent ones with John Wayne. She appeared in so many B films from the 1950s and 1960s that she was crowned Queen of the Bees by the popular media. With her reputation secure, she also numbered among many of her close friends, the famous Hollywood. And then in 19th of January 1983, she, attended by her husband and stepson and mother, she was awarded a Hollywood Star on the Walk of Fame. Notably, you'll see Charlton Heston here on your right. He was amongst the dignitaries that were with her at the time. Also of note for you that pay attention to this sort of thing, behind them here, just a few feet away, is John Wayne's own star on the walk. Although she never returned to reside in Utah after her departure in 1940, she would often visit family in central Utah. In an interview later in life, she never shied away from her heritage and credited her formative years as setting the stage for her career path of fame. In December of 2000, just a day before her 81st birthday, she passed away peacefully in her Beverly Hills home. Her husband of nearly 50 years followed her a short 6 months later, and they lie in state, side by side, in the Marysvale Cemetery. Thank you.